This conference will now be recorded.
Anyone, any questions?
I
Okay.
have one query that is related to
Good.
initial
Mm-hmm.
subscription level. So do
Okay.
we need in a separate subscription for Azure DevOps? Is there any way to integrate from Active Directory?
Do we need to have a separate Azure DevOps subscription? When you say when you say subscription for Azure DevOps, again, Azure DevOps is a separate account. Azure DevOps doesn't work on a subscription model. They
Mhm.
have an organization and a tenant. In order to integrate your Azure and Azure DevOps, you just need to establish a service connection. That's how you integrate it out. But yes, if you have an Active Directory in your portal.azure.com, you want to sync it up with Azure DevOps, then you need both your Azure and Azure DevOps running out of the same account. Only then you can integrate those things out here as
So
such.
company has one subscription that is an
Mhm.
suppose if it is in a Gopal at the rate of on Microsoft.com, something like that.
Yes, yes,
So anyway, I'm using an as in a company, I'm using Gopal.com. It's in a domain.
correct.
Um, so in case if I want to use in a DevOps, I have to use I want to use that it's on Microsoft.com.
Yes, correct. So, for example, let's say you have Gopal at the rate Microsoft.com or Gopal at the rate Accenture.com. Even your
Okay,
DevOps account will start with the same thing because your Azure Active Directory and DevOps, they both sync up with each other.
I tried it, but it is asking to create a new account because the subscription
Mhm.
we can't receive the alerts, right? So on
Uh,
Microsoft.com we
okay.
can't receive an
Mhm.
alerts
Correct.
while going for a
So,
subscription.
so when you talk specifically about DevOps, right? So if I go into dev.azure.com, you have organization settings here, and this is the Active Directory integration. So if I say connect to a directory, then it is telling me with this particular subscription what kind of a directory you have, and then it is telling me, okay, fine, you know what, these are the directory. Then I can go ahead and connect this out. That's how I go ahead and establish that Active Directory link out here as such.
Yeah, this we can do,
Hmm.
but when we go for a billing,
For a billing, that's a different thing again. See, for a billing,
okay,
you need to set up a billing in Azure DevOps again. That's altogether different because Azure DevOps gets built in a separate way. And when I say set up billing, right, it has its own, let's say, subscription out here as such. So now if you see, it's telling loading subscriptions and all these things out. So it's trying to understand what are all the subscriptions that I do have. And if you see it now, right, in my name, I have these two subscriptions. It's
so
valid. So I
by
can save
default
this out.
initial phase we can't see these subscriptions, right?
Initial phase, when you say, again,
So
if your account is associated, if your account is associated with a subscription, and if you are the owner, then you'll be able to see this. Then you'll be able to,
okay.
let's say, go in and see this out. Those are the
Mhm.
three. Those are the two prerequisites that you need to, let's say, satisfy. In my
So in
case,
the
I'm the owner, right? So I
okay,
use the same classes Azure DevOps for my portal also. If I go into portal, I have multiple tenants that I've associated with. So, for example, in my case, uh, I am the owner in this particular subscription with this particular tenant ID called 27 something like that. So if I go here, set up billing, it's looking for all the tenants that I'm a part of, all the tenants where I can go ahead and, let's say, pay the bill. And it's telling me there are two subscriptions. One is Azure Classes, the other is Visual Studio. So if I go back, this is the Visual Studio subscription, C5 something like this,
actually I have
C5 something. Hmm.
six to seven subscriptions in the Azure.
Okay. Okay.
So I don't want to use an existing email ID. I have created a new email ID and created a DevOps account.
Okay.
So this
Okay.
is an initial phase just we started, but I am
Hmm.
trying to integrate with an existing account,
Okay.
but that is not happening. So I
Okay.
thought it's I have to use the account which has been used in Azure account.
Yes, you have to use the account which is being used in Azure account. So this is the same account that I have in Azure,
Okay,
same account that I have here. Only then Azure DevOps will be able to identify how you can go ahead or to which account can I go ahead and, let's say, integrate this out here as such.
okay, okay, got it. Thanks, Kiran. We can
No
continue.
problem.
Yeah.
Yes, any more questions, guys? Okay, let's do
Good
one
morning,
thing.
sir.
Sorry, go ahead. Go ahead, Madhu.
And the sorry, in the sorry, it means in the real time they should be in the same only, right? The
They
Azure
will
in the
be in the same.
Azure.
Yes,
Sorry,
so
sir.
they will be in the same. They will be in the same. So in
Okay,
a
sir.
real time, they will be in the same, but for our practice, you don't have to be in the same. That's what I meant. Is that you can,
Okay, sir.
since we are not going into billing administration, we do not have to be in the same. But if you want to do billing, if you want to, let's say, set up your Active Directory and all these things, right? You have to make sure that your Azure account and your DevOps account are running from the same ID. And the ID
Okay.
that you have here is an owner or a billing administrator.
Okay. Okay, sir. Yes, sir. And one more small doubt,
Okay,
sir.
good, please.
Sir, yesterday I have created three resource group with the same location, and under which each resource group I have created one storage account with the same
Okay,
location only by using counter for each.
okay.
And but could you please advise me, sir, what is the logic for creating three different resource groups with different locations, not in the same locations at the
In
same
the
time? It is
different
possible, sir.
location, right? Yes, it is possible. So that's where
Hmm.
your count and for each. So that's where for each will come into picture. So if you look at your for each, right? So I'll also give a demo for this one. Shouldn't be a
Okay, sir.
problem.
Thank you.
But I'll first do Azure DevOps and then go into this particular demo. But just to address your let's say query. So when you do for each, right? You
Mhm.
mention this particular object, telling this is the for each. And for example, if you see, this is my first storage account in West US 3. This is my second storage account in East US 2. If you have a third storage account or a resource group, you can say, okay, fine, North Europe or something like that. And you can do this. Telling for each value, please go to that particular location, create me something. Then it goes ahead, creates you East US 2, West US 3, and so on and so forth out here. Do you see this? This is how it gets created in a for each, let's say, looping out here. But you have to declare these values. You have to declare these values in a for each looping in the form of a variable. I can also show you. I can also give you a demo for the
Okay,
same
sir.
thing out here.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Yes, any more questions, guys?
Sir, I have one question regarding to this CI/CD pipeline YML.
Okay.
Uh,
For YML, can I just hold the question because, or if it's something that I can address, go ahead with your question. Let's see if I can address it right away.
I think I have dropped the email also. It's regarding group variables.
Okay.
So when I was declared the values like
Hmm.
name and web app service plan and
Okay.
RGM in the
Okay.
variables, I have was
Mm.
created the group name development and I was passed.
Okay.
So in the case it was not understanding the variables which I was like declared. But
Correct.
under
So,
variables, just if
mhm.
I was declaring those things, it was taking.
Okay. So couple of things out here is that now if you see this right, firstly the syntax is a little different. It should be something like this. It should be hyphen space group
Yeah.
then development. So this is the first thing that I observe from this particular, let's say, variable. Second thing is that I'm able to see the override here. This is something that
Mhm.
I'm able to understand. But how are you passing the resource group name? Like what is the resource group name that you're passing when you're declaring the file? Because see, if you see this right,
Uh,
it's directly taking $RG name out here, which is something that you did pass. But the variable declaration syntax is something that I am not too sure about because it's not really working. So the variable declaration syntax is something that I feel is the issue. So can you just give a space here, say group and then sorry hyphen and then space group, and then can you
yeah, I
go ahead
was
and give this?
given space.
No, but here
Okay,
if you
see.
see, I don't have that space here at all. So when I declared those groups, when I
Okay.
if you look at my YAML file,
Okay, we're saying hyphen space group.
yes. So if you look at the YAML file out here, let's see,
Okay.
let's check this out. So these are the stages, and let's see where did I declare my variable group. So do you see this?
Mm.
This is a syntax that I want you to give, but what you have given is that you just did a hyphen and then you did a group. So you did something
Okay,
like
okay,
this.
I will try.
You
Yeah,
didn't
yeah, I
do a
will try.
space. So probably it is not, uh, let's say, respecting the fact that this is a group and with this particular name. And that's the reason it's not identifying the library value that you have passed out here as such.
Okay, sir, I will try that.
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. And yes, any more questions, guys, before I get started? Again, this is the time where you have to ask a lot of questions, guys. I agree, you have a lot of questions, and I'm here to answer all those questions out there. As and when you practice, right, you'll get a lot of questions as such. So let's do one thing. Let's continue our journey with terraforms. And today, this is what I want to create. I want to create a resource group. Let's come with the resource group. Let's see where my resource group diagram is. I have a resource group. I want to create an app service and an app service plan. This is what I want to do, to create a resource group, app service plan for multiple environments. Again, dev, QA, production, all these things, stage, production, and all these things. But today, I don't want to execute these templates from my local machine. This is the, let's say, fact. I don't want to execute, or this is the trick. I don't want to execute all these templates from my local machine. I want to use Azure DevOps. So, guys, if you remember, we have used ARM templates with Azure DevOps, right? We took ARM templates, we deployed it both with Classic and YAML. Now, what I want to do is that I want to now understand how do I, let's say, go ahead and deploy my resources out here. So the very first thing, we'll we'll do a couple of things out here. Firstly, we will write our templates, store our templates in the repository, and after doing that, we'll go ahead and do a CI/CD strategy on how do you deploy this out. So let's get started with that. So again, I'll use VS Code. Let me open up VS Code out here, and I'll open up a folder. I'll say open a folder. I will go ahead and say a new folder out here. Let's say Terraforms as 4. And once you go inside that, let me go ahead and add a file called resources.tf file. Any name, I am good with that. Again, I'll start with a provider block. I'll say it is Azure RM, AZURE RM Azure. So this is something that you just need to, let's say, note down. Uh, and again, I have seen a couple of screenshots where people are mistakenly giving by this name as Azure. You cannot do that. So you have to give something like Azure RM out here. After that, give a features block. You want to now go ahead create a resource group and a not a storage account, a app service plan and an app service under it. This is what I want to do it. So this is what I want to do end to end. Again, I will use a variables file, and here I will declare variables like team name, dev for dev, QA for QA, and all these things out. And I'll say the type here is a string. Again, I'll say Again, I'll say variable. I'll say location. Type here to be a string again. And let's see, the plan type is something that you can say. Wherein the app service plan type can take it as F1, S1, and all that stuff. I'll say ASP plan SKU or SKU. I can just give a value called SKU. I can say type. I'll say string. So these are the three things that I'm going ahead and I'm using. One is the team name and my app service and the app service plan, right? They'll follow the same convention. If the team name is development, I have an app service called devplan01 or app service plan called devplan01. If I have a team name called QA, it will become QA something like that. And I will also also go ahead and declare our dev.tfrs, qa.tfrs. These files is something that I declare, and I'll declare my values here, guys. I'll say team name. It's a key value pair. I'll say dev. I'll say location. And for development team, let's say I use a location called ECS2 without any space, better. I have SKU, and let's say for development, I use an SKU called S1, standard one. And then I have something like QA.tfrs. and whatever team that you need, you can go ahead and give a file for them out here as such. And I'll say this is QA, this is West US. This can be S1, not a problem. I'll save this out. Now I'll start declaring my resources. Again, very simple. You don't even have to write all these things out. Just go again back to the Google Chrome browser. Just say Terraform Azure provider and go to the documentation, and let's look for app service plan. I'm not even looking for resource group. I'll say app service plan. So here I have something called Azure RM underscore app underscore service. This is the app service. You can also look at the app service directly. Shouldn't be a problem at all, because app service plan, app service will also tell you how do you create the app service plan out here. And again, say it's telling the resources deprecated. So this is an issue. This is something that you have to, let's say, note down. Some of the resources might not work. So it's telling, you know what, this will not work if you are anywhere above, let's say, Terraform version 3.0, which I am in Terraform version 3.0 right now. It's telling you have to specifically tell whether you want a Windows web app or a Linux web app. Let's say I'll go for a Windows web app. So I'll click on this one. So this is the provider type, which is called Azure RM underscore Windows underscore web underscore app. And it's giving you an example. How do you create a resource group? How do you create a plan? How do you create a web app? Just copy everything. Go back and paste it here. That's it. This is the resource group. This is the app service plan. And this is the app service. Now I'll do my own customization. So now if I see, this is a resource, Azure RM underscore resource underscore group. Here it is example. I'll say RG. Here in place of, let's say, something like example resources, I will say var dot team name, which is dev QA, something like that, hyphen RG. So dev for dev RG, QA, QA RG, and so on and so forth. And here I'll remove this entire thing, and I'll say it is var dot location. So I'm calling that variable dot location out here. I'll just scroll down. So this is the adjustment that I need to do in my, let's say, copied and pasted template. I'll just scroll down, and it's telling resource Azure RM underscore service underscore plan example. I'll say app service plan. And here the name here, I would say it is dev plan 01, QA plan 01, something like that. So I'll again say var dot team name plan 01, or plan 01 out here as such. So this will become dev for dev, QA for QA, DevOps for DevOps, prod for prod, stage for stage. And then you'll have something like a plan. And then the resource group name, the only thing that I need to change is that the RG here. So I'll replace the RG, the location also I'll replace this out. So location, location and the resource group name I'm picking up directly from the resource group property. SKU underscore name can be something like P1, V2, S1, and etc. Again, if you go back to the documentation, right, you have something called SKU. So just scroll down. It's also telling you what is the argument reference. If I just scroll down, this is the app service, right? So I'll have to look at the app service plan. So if I just take this out, Azure RM underscore plan, if I just go here, it's going to tell me what kind of an OS type, Windows, Linux, Windows containers. SKU name can be something like B1, B2, B3, D1, F1, A1, something like this. I am taking something like S1 out here. This is the plan that I'm, let's say, really creating. So here what I'll do is I already declared this in my variable file, right? So I'll say var.sku, and the OS type, I'm creating a Windows. Accepted values are Linux and something called as Windows container. Again, it's mentioned in the documentation also. How do you pass this out? And also, guys, please make sure that you are passing it with camel casing with the same, let's say, capitals and all these things out. Otherwise, this will fail. And this is the app service plan. If I just scroll down, I'm creating the app service. So it's Azure RM underscore Windows underscore web app. I'll say website, local name, name here. Again, I'll say it is var.team name plus, let's say it is dev. So I'll say dev site tf abc000, something like this. Something which is unique in nature. So I'm just going ahead and giving this particular name. It's asking me resource group name. I'll replace this with RG. It's asking me the location, and it's asking the location for the app service plan, guys. This is important to note. So this is the app service plan. This is the local name. I'll copy this out. I'll say app service plan location, app service plan ID. This is how I am, let's say, modifying my template. I'll say save. So now I'm telling this is the app service plan. This is the resource group. This is the app service plan. This is the app service. I've constructed all my resources out here right now. So any questions with the resource creation? I mean, any questions with the resource writing, guys? Anyone, any questions still here on how did I write these resources? From where did I get these resources? Again, I'm doing a simple copy paste. I'm not writing the resources. I'm doing a very simple copy paste from, let's say, the Terraform documentations, which is the best approach. Believe me, the Terraform documentations are too good. This is the best approach. Just going ahead, copy pasting everything out here, and then going ahead and modifying, let's say, the properties that you need out here as such. Yes, anyone, any questions? Uh, Guys, can you all hear me now? Screen got stuck and voice also lost. Madhu, I think it's an issue at your end. Just a second. Your end. Stop and join back. And the rest of the folks, guys, are you able to hear my voice and see my screen still?
Yeah, we are able to. There's
Yes.
no issues.
Great. All right, so let's see. So we have the resource group app service plan and the app service. Now, what should we do, guys? What exactly that we need to do right now? What is the command that we need to use right now? How do we get started here?
Terraform
Anyone?
init.
A Terraform init? Yes, exactly. That's where we need to start telling Terraform init. But again, I am not doing the init in my local machine, meaning I don't want to go ahead and start doing Terraform initialization or Terraform planning and Terraform apply from my local machine at all. I want to use Azure DevOps services. In my local machine, all I'm doing is writing the template. I am not going ahead and doing the Terraform init and all these things. Why don't you do that? The thing here is that when you do a Terraform init, plan and then apply, at the end of it, you're going to get a state file, right? A state file is nothing but a representation of whatever that you have created on the Azure portal with all the configurations that you have. Imagine, let's say there are two people in this class. Let's say I am there, Gopal is there, Madhu is there. Everyone is going ahead and doing the Terraform init, Terraform plan, Terraform apply on their local machine. You have the same template, I have the same template, everyone has the same thing. Now the question becomes is that Gopal will have a state file, I will have a state file, Madhu is going to have a state file. Now whose state file is correct? Whose state file will I actually go ahead and look at? Because I can have a different configuration, you can have a different configuration, someone else can have a different configuration out here. This will create a lot of confusion, and this is going to, let's say, go ahead and result in resource misconfigurations out here. It is not right. You That's a that's the reason companies don't allow you to go ahead and do a direct Terraform init, direct Terraform apply, and all these things from your local machine. They don't really allow this. They don't really allow you to go ahead and do that. That's the reason I have a DevOps practice. That's the reason I'm storing my file somewhere. But here's the deal, guys. This is what I want to do in end to end. I have written all the template from my Visual Studio. So all the template here is in my Visual Studio in my local machine. I want to store all these templates in a service called Azure Repos. This is something that we know about, right? It's a Git repository. We can go do branching policy strategies and all these things. So I want to store all my templates here in my Git based repository. And from this, I want to go ahead and start creating my CI/CD strategy using Azure DevOps. I want to do a continuous integration pipeline, or a simple copy pipeline is what I call this as, and then a release pipeline, either in YAML, Classic, anything is super okay with me. A release pipeline out here to go ahead and deploy our resources onto the Azure portal, out here as such. So I want to perform Terraform plan, Terraform init, Terraform apply, everything using my release pipeline, because this is the deployment. This is where, let's say, I'll be applying it out. Now my question is, guys, even on Azure DevOps, when you perform all these activities, right, you're going to get a state file. My question to Azure is that, where am I going to store the state file? Yes, I'll get a state file. Now, where will I even go and store the state file? Because in my local machine, the state file was directly, or the state file, I could go ahead and save it in the same directory. But when I'm applying it with Azure DevOps, how will I really store this out? Now, Azure has one simple solution for it. Azure tells, whenever you get a state file from this particular point, so you're going to get a state file out here. Whenever you are going to get a state file out here, make sure to store the state file into something which is secure, something that is, let's say, allows you to go ahead and let's say restricts you to go ahead and edit out, something which is secure, something which can store it for a longer period. And that's where Azure is telling, get a storage account. Storage account is for unstructured data. State file is nothing but a JSON file, right? Even that's an unstructured data or a semi-structured data. It's telling, please go ahead and store it inside the state file in the form of a blob out here. Meaning, whenever you apply the Terraform pipeline that you have created here, should go ahead and will go ahead and store all my state configuration into a particular blob that is a part of a container, which is a part of a storage account. In order for Terraform to do that, I will firstly need a storage account in my Azure portal. So let's go there. Let's see if I have a storage account with me. So I'm going to the Azure portal. Again, you can create the storage account using a PowerShell script or something like that. Anything is okay. Again, if you see, we have created a lot of storage accounts, right? And we already have the dev RG and all that stuff. So let me do one thing. Firstly, let me delete that particular dev RG and QA RG. It will conflict out if I don't do. So I'll delete this one. I will also delete this one, which will also delete the storage account inside it. But I now have something like a Terraform first RG, inside which I already have a storage account. So I already have a storage account that is in central US. Any location is super okay with me. And I have a couple of containers inside this particular storage account. Or I'll create a container. I don't have one. I'll say a state container or a state file container. So I have a storage account. If you don't have one, you can go ahead and create one. And once that's done, you'll have a container. And what I can now do is that I can come down to the Terraform Terraform documentation, and I'll say Terraform, or in Google search, I'm saying Terraform Azure backend. I'm searching for this. Here it is telling me, in order to make sure that you store everything, please make sure to use a storage account, and please make sure to use this particular block to configure the same. I'll copy this. I'll go back into my Terraforms, into the file. And after I am doing the provider, after I'm doing that provider, I'll mention something called Azure backend. So it's telling Terraform backend, Azure RM. Then it's telling what is the resource group name in which you have that particular storage account. So if I go back to my storage account, right, I'll get all these details here. First thing, the resource group name is Terraform first. So I'll place it here. String storage account name. I'll copy the storage account name, place it here. It's telling what is the what is the container name. I have something called as a state container. I'll copy this out. I'll paste it here. It's asking me for the key. The key is nothing but the name of the file or the name of the state file that you want to create. Again, for a team called dev, I want to create it as dev.tfstate. For a team called QA, I want to create it as qa.tfstate. So what I'll do is I'll remove this out. I'll put this tf state that the way it is, and I'll say it is var.team name. So now this will become dev.tf state, qa.tf state, and all these things. And this is the configuration that I have. All my configuration is in place. I have the provider, I have the backend block, I have the resource group, I have the plan, I have the app service, all are in place. Now what I'm going to do is let me go into Azure DevOps and let me say create a new repository out here telling that this is Terraform's Azure DevOps demo. I'll create this out. So I have the DevOps demo out here. This is the repository I have. I'll clone this repository. I'll go ahead into my junk folder and I'll put my repository in here. And now GitHub is actually cloning all my repository out here. I'll say open a new window. So all my repository, again, I'm working on the main branch. You can go ahead, create a develop branch, put policies on that. You can do all those things, branching policies and etc. to make sure that someone, if they're editing that particular Terraform file, they'll need an approval and all these things out. You can do that, but in the best interest of time, I'll go ahead and use the main branch only. So what I'll do is I'll go back into my folder where I have my Terraform templates. So all my Terraform templates are here, class 4. All these are the files that I need. I'll copy this out, go back into the folder where I've copied all my code or where I've cloned all my code. I'll create a new folder telling it is Terraform templates and paste everything out here. So I have the dev.tfrs, qa.tfrs, resources.tf, variables.tf, everything placed inside this particular folder. Again, I did not do a Terraform in it. Neither I did a Terraform plan, neither I did a Terraform apply, nothing. I just wrote my templates. These are my changes. I'll stage all my changes. I'll say Terraforms with Azure DevOps, something like this. Commit. I'll just sync the changes out here. So I'm committing all these changes and I'm syncing the changes back into my main branch of the repository. And once it's done, I'll go back into the main branch, refresh the screen. Now I have all my Terraform templates out here. Any questions till here? Anyone? Any questions that need till here? Anyone? Any questions till here that I can take on what we have done? So we have written all the Terraform templates the way it is. But one additional thing that I have done right now is that I've put something called as a backend storage block. This is to hold my state files. This is to hold and persist my state files out here. And once I've done that, I've uploaded all these templates inside Azure DevOps, or I've pushed all these templates inside Azure DevOps. And now let me go ahead and create a pipeline. So I'll say new pipeline. You can go with classic YAML, anything's okay. I'll just go with classic to just begin this with. I'll say simple learning. This is the sample learning project that I have. The repository is called Terraform Azure DevOps demo. Branches main. I'll say continue. I'll start with an empty job. I'll say empty job out here. I'll say this is a Terraform copy pipeline. And this is the agent job. And the only thing that I need to do is a copy task. That's it. Meaning I just need to copy my Terraform templates from the source repository, which is this one, to the destination, which is build.artifact staging directory. This is where I need to copy this out. Again, you can use any agent here, Windows latest, Windows 2019, anything works. Or if you have a self-hosted agent, even that works. I'll say add, and I'll do a copy. So it's telling me copy files. I'll say add this out. I'll say copy files too. And this is the build.artifact staging directory that I have. And this is the destination. Source folder, I would say it is Terraform templates. So everything that is there in Terraform templates, copy this out. Again, I've got this variable. It is a predefined variable. Again, you can go to Azure DevOps predefined variables and get this out. Or if you add a publish artifacts task, right? Selling publish artifacts out here, in this task will have this particular variable. You can copy it from here and paste it. So I'm adding two tasks here. One, I'm copying the files. Second, I'm publishing the files, and I'll run this pipeline. So the only thing that I'm doing in this pipeline is that just copying all my files and going ahead and publishing all the files into a drop folder so that I can use it in my release pipeline. This is what I'm doing in the continuous integration. So this is simple, a copy pipeline which produces artifact. And when I say artifact, these are all the .terraform files that it gets produced out here as such. So let's wait for a second. And once this is done, it's telling check out the Git repository, copy all the files. So it's telling, okay, fine, I'll copy files. It'll take like a second to copy this out. So it's going here, it's telling, okay, fine, these are all the files that I see. I'll copy it inside the artifact directory and I'll publish all those artifacts into your pipeline. So now if you see in a drop folder, you have all these things called resources.tf, variables, qa.tfs, dev.tfs. All these folders are, all these files are created. Now I'll go into my release pipeline and I'll create a new release pipeline. In here, I'll say it is a Terraform deployment. And here I'll just add an artifact. I'll say the source artifact is something like the Terraform copy pipeline. This is the artifact that I've added. Stage, I'll say it is dev for dev, QA for QA, so on and so forth. And inside this particular stage, I will now start adding tasks. So I'll make sure that I have this on Windows latest. I'll say Azure pipelines, I'll say Windows latest. And I'll now start adding tasks, guys. So what I'll do right now is the is the very first task. I'll say Terraform. I'll call Terraforms out here. In my case, I have an add option. In your case, you'll have an option called get it free. If you're doing this for the very first time, you'll have an option called get it free. Click on this, install Terraforms, do a refresh, and now you have the add option. So firstly, I'll say install the Terraform tool. I don't know whether the agent has Terraforms already installed or not. So I'm adding just one simple task to install the Terraform tool, which is the latest version. Once that's done, I'll again look for Terraform. Now it says, okay, fine, add. Now it's telling, what do you want me to do? The very first step, I'll say the display name is Terraform init. On a cloud called Azure RM, this is the provider. Command here is init. The working directory, wherever your main file is, please point out to that directory. So if I click on this, I have a drop location inside which I have my resources.tf file. I'll say, okay, this is where you need to do the init. Now it's telling, what is your Azure backend configuration? Can you give me the name of your storage account? Give me the name of the container. I'll say it is a sample connection. Firstly, the service connection is what I'm giving. Resource group, I'll tell it is Terraform RG first. Storage account, I'll pick up a storage account called dev tf storage account out here. Container, I'll take the container called that particular state container out here. Key, again, very importantly, I'll say the team name dot this one, right? So whatever is the team name, whatever was the team name out here, which is QA, dev, and all that stuff, right? I will just give the same thing. I'll say team name dot tf, not dot tf state. Here is nothing but it's asking you what is your state file. So I'm saying team name and I'll add a variable for this called team name called dev for an environment called development. Again, this could be a variable group, this could be library, whatever it is. I'm going to do this. So it is dev. I'm scoping it to dev out here. This is Terraform init, the very first task. Then I'll say add. I'll again look for Terraforms. I'll say add this out. I'll say Terraform planning. This is something that I'll do. A cloud called Azure. Command, I'll click on this. I'll say Terraform plan. Please now do a plan. And now I'll go here. I'll select the folder here. I'll say OK. Additional arguments. So this is what I need to pass. So open up a Windows partial or any partial out here. If I do a Terraform plan hyphen help, again additional arguments comes here. Terraform plan hyphen help out here. This is what I'm passing. Hyphen var hyphen file. What is my output? Hyphen out. The path of my TF plan. Hyphen state. Where is my state file? So what I'll do is here I'll say hyphen var hyphen file is equal to, again without spaces. Again for dev it is dev.tfvars, QA it is QA.tfvars. So I'll put it something like dollar team name dot tfvars hyphen out. I'll say equal to dollar team name dot tf plan hyphen state. I'll say equal to dot team name dot team name uh, dot tf state. Same thing that I'm using. Now it's asking me for the Azure subscription. I'll say this is the sample connection. This is my Azure subscription out here. Finally, I'll do a Terraform again, add this task out, and I'll call this as Terraform apply, and I'll say Azure RM is my cloud. Command is apply. Here, I'll again choose the directory where I need my Terraforms, where all my Terraforms are there. In the additional arguments, again in the application, I set Terraform apply hyphen help to do this. Again, the only thing that I gave is a state file path. So again, I'll say it is hyphen state is equal to team name dot tf state space whatever is, let's say, the plan file that I have in quotes. I'll say team name dot tf plan. This is what I'm giving, and I'll say the subscription out here. So installing Terraform, initializing Terraform, also giving what is my Azure backend where I need to store this particular file in, the planning with additional arguments, and also all these additional arguments are being passed in as an Azure DevOps variable so that I can reuse this particular stage, and also the apply. And even in apply, I'm giving a hyphen state out here, space wherever or whatever is my plan, and I'll save this out. With just one stage, I can replicate this stage again. So I'll save this out. I'll now create a release into the development environment. I'll say create. Release 1 is being created right now. Now let's see. So it's telling agent is now ready. And again, if you see this, guys, I have nothing here. It's an empty container. It's a simple empty container out here. No files, nothing out here as such. I am not creating any Terraform init from my local machine at all. And now it's taking the agent. So let's give it a second. Let's wait for the job to be done. So it's initializing the job, getting you the agent, and taking all the Azure DevOps variables out here. And then it's telling install the Terraform. Firstly, it's telling the agent may have or may not have the Terraform. So it's installing the Terraform. Then doing something called as a Terraform init. So it's telling initializing the backend. It's telling Terraform init is done. Then I have a Terraform plan. And when I'm doing a Terraform plan, let's check this out. I am now getting a file called dev.tf state file. So Terraform is, is going in the background, understanding that, okay, fine, I need to produce a state file out here called dev.tf state, and Terraform is locking the state file. Even when you look at in your local machine, right, when you're running all these commands, Terraform will lock your state files out here. So that's what it's doing here. It's telling this is all the Terraform command. This is a plan, and it's telling if you just scroll down 3 to add, and it's saved to something called dev.tf plan. And now I'm doing a Terraform apply. Again, it's telling I'm acquiring a state lock, which means that it will lock this file out. If you just scroll here, there is something called a lease state of this particular file. So Terraform is telling, while I am doing an application, no one else can go ahead and even touch this file. So Terraform is telling the file is now logged. You cannot even, let's say, go ahead and do anything with this file out here as such. And now Terraform is doing the Terraform application. So now it's taking that plan that you have, then it's telling, okay, fine, you know what, creating all these services like the resource group, the app service plan, and the app service. And finally, after it creates it, it produces and stores the state file in memory out here. It's telling, okay, fine, I'm storing the state file here in this particular, let's say, a container in this particular storage account. I'm storing your state files, and it will read the state file every time from this particular storage account out here. A secure way in order to apply terraforms, always a suggested way in order to apply terraforms out here as such. So now if you see, it's creating the app service. So it created the plan. Now it's creating the website called app service out here. So if you go into the Azure portal, it would have had dev rg, inside which now it's creating all these two things out here. So this resource is still being provisioned in a provisioning state out here. I'll close this. In a provisioning state out here, it will take about a minute or so. So it's telling it's still creating, so on and so forth. Let's give it a second and let's allow this to be created and done. So you have initialize, you have init, you have, you firstly installing Terraform out here, you're doing the initialization. And of course, when you're doing the initialization, you're telling that, okay, fine, what is your backend storage account? There is a container. You're doing a Terraform plan, Terraform apply. And while you're doing a Terraform plan and apply, I, I was telling that the storage account or the blob that you see was in a leased state, meaning Terraform will lock it out. But now if you see, go into the container and look at the blobs out there in the container, the state is now available. So Terraform will apply a lease or Terraform will apply a lock and also release a lock. So what Terraform will do is that it will come here, it'll say this is the blob, and there's something called acquire lease out here. Terraform will hit this and tell that, okay, fine, I'm acquiring the lease on this particular blob, so you cannot edit this out. So now if you see, it's in a leased state. And after it's done, Terraform will come here and say break the lease. I'm done. So others can use this out. And now this lease is broken. Now if you, let's say, go ahead and refresh this out, lease state is broken, which means that it is available. The blob is now available out here for general use out here as such. Now if I want to replicate the environment, I can simply go ahead and do one thing. I can clone this out. I can call this as QA. All I need to do is come here, change this variable to QA. That's it. Now I can go ahead and start applying terraforms on dev, QA, whichever environment that I have. I can start applying this out here as such. Again, very important for us to know how to take a Terraform template and apply it to Azure DevOps, because this is what we will be doing, guys. As a DevOps engineer, we will make sure that developers, sorry, not developers, DevOps engineers, whenever they edit this file, so this is the end-to-end flow. Let's say that I have some policies here. So I'll put some policy here telling that I at least need one reviewer to approve this change. I'll allow the requester to approve their own change. This is fine. I'll enable continuous integration on this particular pipeline. I'll say enable continuous integration, and I'll also go ahead and do a continuous deployment enablement. So I'll edit this out, not .NET release, sorry, but Terraform release. Edit this out, and I'll enable a continuous deployment. So let's see. Now, me as a DevOps engineer, if I want to go ahead and do some change, I will create my own branch. I'll say feature run Terraform test. I'll create this out. I'll go into this particular folder. Let's say that the plan that I have, I want to change it from S1 to a different tier. Let's see what are the tiers that are supported. Okay, this is the plan, if I'm not wrong. No, this is the app service. So let's see one of the SKUs of the plan on how to declare this out. I go inside the plan, and if I go inside the argument references of my plan, I have all these things. So let's say I want to go into P1 V2. I'll copy this out, come into my template, and I'll say, you know what, instead of S1, take me to P1 V2. I'll say comment, create a pull request into my main branch. And if I create a pull request, I'll be able to see what are the changes that I'm doing. I'll say create. I'll say autocomplete delete the branch after it's merged. Approve this out. Once approved, and once the pull request is merged, you'll have a continuous integration pipeline that automatically got triggered, which is going ahead making the artifact entirely. And once this is done, it will go ahead and kick off your continuous deployment pipeline, and that continuous deployment will go ahead and do the necessary deployments out here. So if you see now, the copy task is in function, and I'm not doing anything. I've just went ahead, committed all my files out here into the main branch, and that's it. The entire chain is started. It will go ahead, trigger the pipeline. This will give you the artifact. It will go into the release. This has all the steps like Terraform install, Terraform init, Terraform plan, Terraform apply. It has all those things out here. And once it's, let's say, doing all these things out here as such, it will go ahead and recreate my infrastructure or modify my infrastructure out here accordingly. So this is how Terraforms in a combination with Azure DevOps is working. So I created my templates, pushed my templates into the repository. I am declaring something called as a backend block. I'm using that particular storage account. I'm doing a copy in my, let's say, build pipeline, and I'm doing all those steps in my release pipeline out here. So if I just refresh this out, this is done. And automatically, if you see, release 2 has been triggered, and it's waiting for the agent to come into picture. And once it's waiting for the agent, it's going ahead, and in the backend also, let's see, yes, in the backend also the state file is there. This is not deleted. Terraform will now read this particular state file. So if you see in the backend, it's again doing the same steps out here, like init, plan, and apply. But right now in a controlled order, in a control mechanism, in a CI/CD mechanism is what this is doing out here right now. Yes, any questions that I can take till here? Anyone, any questions that I can take till here?
Terraform installation is required every time.
Terraform installation is required every time. Reason being, see, you do not have a control on what machine that is, let's say, given to you. Now, this machine name, right? It can change because it's a hosted machine. So you don't know whether that machine really has Terraforms or not. So that's the reason we go ahead and install this out. Again, it's a very simple job. Takes less than 3 seconds. So that's the reason I would say we can keep it in place. If you have a self-hosted machine which you are sure that Terraform is already there, then not this step is not required. This step is not at all required. You can do init, plan, and apply. Shouldn't be a problem.
Okay.
Yes, again, if you look at the plan, it's telling one change, S1 to P1 V2. That's it. So it's telling, okay, fine. That change is something that I now try to apply. And if my subscription has that particular quota, it'll go ahead and increase my plan from, let's say, now this is the dev plan 01. It'll increase that particular quota from S1 to P1 V2. Right now it's S1. It's now trying to do that application. And once the application is done, I should be able to see that the plan now will change to P1 V2 out here as such. P1 V2. So this is how I am doing all these things using my Terraforms out here. Again, now QA is queued up, so I don't want this. I'll just cancel this out. Yes. Any questions still here?
Sir, in the
Mhm,
real
please.
time, which pipeline will be using, sir? Classic, YAML, or Jenkins?
As of now, we are using a lot of YAML pipelines. Classic pipelines, still organizations are using it. People are still using the classic pipelines. But as of now, the trend is to go towards YAML. So a lot of people are converting their pipelines into YAML right now. So the trend here is, it's already set. So we are using the classic out here. Jenkins, again, I would say it's a very good tool. I wouldn't, let's say, tell that it's not a good tool. It's a very good tool. Jenkins is a very good tool. But if you are using Azure DevOps, right, the scope for Jenkins is very less. So I've personally seen a lot of projects migrating from Jenkins into Azure DevOps. Reason being, Azure DevOps offers you a better SLA, a better availability, and so on and so forth. So the significance of Classic and Jenkins is coming down. Significance of YAML using Azure DevOps, that's going really up out here as such. Yes, any more
Sir,
questions?
can you show only one Jerkin pipeline, sir?
Jenkins, I have a complete session for that. So at the end, I'll also tell you what Jenkins is and how to design the pipeline and so on and so forth. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Is any more questions, guys?
So here
So,
migrations, it's like a tool to tool migration or OS to OS, how it is migration generally here?
When you say migration, can you please elaborate on that, Sangeeta? What exact migration that you're talking about?
No, so generally migration in the sense Windows 7 to Windows 8, like we will be migrating to
Mhm.
apps like that, it will comes in the term.
Right,
So you
right.
told about here migration. So I didn't understand
Mhm.
what like about its scope of what you told me.
Okay, so migrations in general means taking an application that is there on premise and take it into the cloud. So when you do that, what we try to do is that wherever the application, sorry, wherever the application was running, let's say it was running on a Windows 12 server or a 16 server, we try to create a VM with 16 server out here and then try to migrate the application out here as such. So that's what migration normally means to us. Yes, any more questions, guys? Anyone, any more questions that I can take?
if it is a self-hosted agent, we need to install Azure CLA.
Yes, you would need to install Azure CLI and you also need to install Terraform and configure the same. So you need both of them. Any more questions, guys? Okay, so that's it from mine today. In the next session, we'll be looking at Terraform iterations, how to do Terraform iterations and etc. using for each. That's something that I need to cover. And after that, we'll be starting with Dockers, guys. Okay. Thank you and have a good day ahead. Thanks, guys.